Hey everyone, welcome to KYG Live, Know Your Gear Live, number 118. Just make sure, the audio is not on. How's everyone doing? This was interesting because I wasn't sure if I was going to do the show today or tomorrow, but we'll talk about that, why that was. But before we get started, I want to just let you know that today I released two videos, this one and another one. The other one, I will put a link right now, is with Warren Huart. From Produce Like a Pro, and it was one of my favorite videos I did with him at TGU. I love the video. If you guys want to check it out, please do. But also, please understand that we did another video like it talking about different subjects on his channel as well, and I'll put a link to his channel as well because, again, it's a very good channel. He's a very amazing talent and just a great gentleman. And so if you guys get a chance to check him out, please check out his channel. It's a really, really good channel. I've learned a lot from it. So that being said, let's say make sure you check out those stuff. We have lots of stuff to talk about today. So not only questions, but lots of interesting stuff. I'm feeling a little better than last week. I still have a little bit of that cold left in my chest, but I'm going to be fine. I have 24 hours to get totally better because I fly to Germany tomorrow again. Yes, I'm going back to Germany. Rock on Germany. I'm back to Germany. So I'll be there again for some more events and some more stuff. I'm very excited about that. So, Lucky Lick says, where's the link? The link will be in the index when I index the show at the end. I didn't do the links yet, so I'll put that down below. So let's see what we got to talk about. The first thing that's probably most interesting to talk about is Gibson. We're going to talk about Gibson, but something happened that's really important when it comes to Gibson. So last week we talked about the whole, Gibson's crazy video debacle and Dean guitars. And I'm sure you guys got your fill all week. But last week I said something and I was being a little coded with it. I didn't want to tell you, which is I said I have someone that I know personally was being sued by Gibson, and therefore I have a bias in that argument. Obviously I hate to see that stuff happen. Well, I'd like to share with everyone that I'm very excited today that I'll just announce that was with Framus Warwick. So Framus Warwick was being sued by Gibson for the V guitar in Europe. This is something that's been going on for a year and a half. Today, the European courts favored in Framus's favor. Basically, let me look at my notes right here to give you the highlights. Basically, the courts ruled that the V is not something that can be exclusive. Let's see. Hold on. So keep in mind, this is something that Gibson had appealed and lost the appeal as well. The judgment of the court declared, while the shape of the V guitar was very original when it was released on the market in 1958, it cannot, however, deny the evolution of the market during the following 50 years, which was henceforward characterized by a wide variety of available shapes. The court also dismissed the notion that consumers only associate the V-shaped body with Gibson. So, yes, Gibson has lost one of the rulings on fighting its V-shape. Now, this is important. This is for the European Union, not for the U.S. So, Framus Warwick did win this case in Europe with the V, but that does not mean that they have the right to do it in the U.S. So anyways, so there you go. It was interesting enough. Now I'm going to do this. And again, this is where I feel very, very, I want to be very clear when I speak so that there's no confusion. This was something that I knew Gibson was doing with Framus for a while now. This is something that some of us who knew Framus Warwick was happening. However, Framus, I feel, in my personal opinion, again, there's bias in this because, I'm associated, I know these companies. Personally, I know people from these companies, employees, the people who sand these guitars, so that changes you when you know the people who literally, feed their kids doing this work, and you know them personally. You have, it's more personal than just seeing it on a screen on your computer on a website. That being said, I feel personally, knowing the story the way I did, I felt like Framus Warwick did everything in their power to kind of negotiate with Gibson and try to kind of quash it. And it seems like Gibson was being very aggressive with them to really kind of take this to the end. And so I'm really happy they won. Not so much that I have anything against Gibson. I just don't. I like Gibson as a guitar brand as well. I like their guitars. However, It's always nice when a company is trying to kind of smooth everything over and do something, correctly. And when the other company's being aggressive, it's nice to hear that they lost, because I like to see that behavior get kind of shut down. So there you go. So I feel good. I feel good about that. I was really holding that back last Friday because, like I said, so Bam Mosey says Gibson keeping the marketing of the Flying V on t-shirts and merchandise. Yes, that's correct. That's what they declared in the European Union, is that the guitar for guitars, that they can make guitars, but but not. Here's the thing with this. So, when Gibson first approached Framus, when they sent the cease and desist, it was, for the V, Framus said, okay, it's obviously the headstock. So Framus went to great details to change the shape of the headstock. Again, trying to kind of make sure that they, hey, we're not trying to copy your instrument. We're just making a V guitar. Everybody likes V guitars. Everybody makes them. And they changed the headstock, and that wasn't good enough for Gibson. Gibson said, no, just making the V was too much. And I know everybody's going to have different feelings about this. What I found interesting about this whole thing, I really want you guys to maybe see it from my perspective. Not so much that you agree with me, because please feel free to disagree all you want, but to see what maybe I saw. I don't think people understand how small Framus Warwick is as a company. The factory is, 16 workers, over half a dozen workers, or over a dozen workers. They make custom high-end instruments, and they don't make a lot of instruments. I'm not saying that's an excuse for them to make it to whatever they want. What I'm saying is it's really strange to watch a big billion-dollar guitar company go after a small company, spend a lot of money and effort, to try to stop them from making what possibly could be less than a dozen instruments a year. So I understand the point of wanting to protect your intellectual properties, but it just seemed like Gibson is really out to fight. So, and that's what we're kind of noticing. So I just thought we would kind of talk about that, because like I said, that was a big thing. If you guys have inputs or thoughts or comments on that, I'd love to hear that. So there you go. We have some super chats stacking up. Well, I'll hit those. Don't worry. Like I said, if you do one of those comments, I always pen them so I don't lose them. Let's see. The other thing is, and then I'll probably try to waver off the Gibson talk, so unless you guys want to talk about it some more. I'm really shocked. Another thing happened was, it's been about 2 weeks since the Mark Agnesi video, and I was talking about this today. I was really shocked that at this point, Gibson hasn't done one of the two things that I thought they should do. I personally thought Gibson should have doubled down and either said, look, we said it, we meant it, we're coming after you, whatever, hold their ground. This is what we're going to do. It's our guitar brand. We love it. We're passionate about it. We're protecting it. Okay, double down. Do it right. Or apologize and say, look, we were wrong. You guys, we said it. We obviously wasn't received very well. I think it's funny that they haven't either apologized or doubled down, that they just kind of letting it flail out there. And to the point where they're letting, I talked about this last week. How does Gibson fix this? What's funny is, if you guys would have saw Stay Metal Ray, he's a smaller YouTube channel, very good channel though, by the way. I'll put a link to his channel before. We've talked about him before on this channel. He was saying that he's going to basically sell his Gibson Flying V because he's not happy with the way the Gibson acting. And the president of Dean said, I really feel bad in the comments in the video. I really feel bad that you had to do that, or you feel the need to do that. We would like to give you a V. That's how you win people over. That's, not saying give them free stuff, but it's not that he's giving them a free V, but that's how you win hearts and minds, is let people know, hey, I'm sad this happened, and I'm sorry we're part of it. How can we make it better? So, but there you go. So that's what you have to say about that. What I found is this. I have found myself, I'm not anti-Gibson. I'm not against Gibson guitars, but I found myself this week casing up. If you notice, they're gone. I cased up my Gibsons. I'm just not in the mood to play them. And I really feel bad about that. You know what I mean? I do, because I like those guitars, and I'm not taking a stance against Gibson by not playing them. I feel like when I picked them up and played them, instead of enjoying guitar, I was thinking about all this crap, and that's just not what I want to do. So there you go. So I don't know if I'll sell them, although I just sold one of my Les Pauls, but it sold before all this happened. Okay. There you go. So there you go. There's with that. Let's talk about, Oh, see, here's something. Shut Up, Let's Talk says, what up, Phil? New guitar day. I just got an Epiphone Les Paul Studio for Pro for $150. That's great. $150 for was it a Studio Pro or is it a Pro? Studio Pro. Excuse me, guys. Like I said, I'm still getting over what I was getting over last week. That's another thought too, is I'm wondering if this is really going to affect the resale value on stuff. It'd be a good time to buy Gibsons and Epiphones if it does. So, all right. And Green says, but playing Gibson makes me feel authentic. Yes. Oh, well, then that's the marketing working, but okay. And Wilson Penn says, in the long run, Gibson just needs to make guitars, period. Yeah, I agree. I kind of wish, like this channel, I try to not talk about stuff that's not related to guitar, try to stay guitar. I'd rather talk about gear and guitars than talk about the politics of the business or the issues at hand or, bankruptcies or, this stuff. But again, it's I know some stuff like this. It's the elephant in the room sometimes. You got to talk about it. But it seems like it's always Gibson. They're just always the company that and then that leads me to the last part. The other reason that last week, if you noticed, I was being somebody was saying I was being a little light-handed with Gibson. I wasn't being light-handed. I was really bummed out that we had to talk about Gibson. I wanted to start last week's episode with what I'm going to start with today. I hit 50 million views on the YouTube channel. That's important to me because although that sounds like a lot of views, because it's a viewpoint that for a gear channel, this is a gear channel. This is a gear lesson review channel. We just talk about gear. We don't do a lot of other content. 50 million views is a small amount of gear channels have hit that. I mean, sure, big channels like Tyler Larson or Jared Dines, those guys will hit astronomical numbers because they make all kinds of content that can get huge viral ratings. But to only be talking about guitars or repairs or things about guitars, you know what I mean? Viral videos for gear channels are not going to be as big. So that is a slow, hard push to get to 50 million. And so I'm very excited about that. And I was a little bummed because I didn't want to bring it up because we got to talk about Gibson. So we're going to talk about that today. So thank you guys so much for that. That's insane. And by the way, I don't want to tell you the official number yet because I was trying to get it right now for the iTunes for these podcasts, but it's also very, very, very impressive. So we'll talk about that next week. So there you go. Okay, so let's hit some super chats because they're stacking up too, and I'll make sure I bounce back and forth so we always get everybody a chance for questions. Let's see. I'm going to say, is Shinnery kid, I know you guys have these weird sign-ons, so I'll do my best always. Just got my hands on an NOS, new old stock Rosewood Mexican thin line tele for $500, $550. Do you know if the necks are routed for humbuckers? So it's a new old stock. So Rosewood Mexican thin line tele should have a neck routed humbucker thing. You're gonna have to pull out off to look. What's the thin line? Hold on. You know what? How about this? I can do at least this before sometimes on these live shows, I kind of do everything off memory without looking. In this case, I'm going to look real quick. Hold on a second. Give me a second. And because if we're going to do this, might as well do it right. Let's see if I can look at it. Okay, Rosewood thin line. It's been a while. I'm thinking in that particular guitar, it's not routed for a humbucker. It's going to be a weird route. It's going to be thicker than a single coil, but not thicker enough to be a humbucker. And then again, I'm just doing off of a guess, off of maybe ones I've seen in the past and stuff, what I remember. So something to think about. But I will tell you this, those guitars sound fantastic when you put a mini humbucker in there. You know what I mean? A lot of times people look at mini humbuckers as like the booby prize of a humbucker. Like you know what I mean? You put a mini humbucker and they're like, oh, it's not a real humbucker. But you know what? There's some magic about mini humbuckers. Believe it or not, it's not about they don't sound as good as humbuckers. I think that's such a weird thing to say. There's something about Think about like the mini humbuckers that Gibson made. I think there's something about our, like PRS would call it, a narrow field, you know, where it narrows the field of what the pickup can hear. There's something that's really interesting about the tone of those. I find that a lot of times a mini humbucker in the neck sounds huge, full, way better than sometimes a full humbucker. Has a lot more depth and fullness, and it's not as bright. It sounds better. So keep that in mind. You know, there's a ton of my guitars I think I would rather just put a mini humbucker, like even a hot rail in the neck. Let's see. Drum Bum wants to know, 73 wants to know, what's my thoughts on the Bugera 212 T's with it? So T's, like not like teasing you, but T's like T and then S. And we'll hit that one real fast. And so that's a 212 cabinet. I'm looking at one right now. And what I want to see is what's in it and the price, because okay, specifications. I'm not feeling this, man. Where's the speakers? Turbo sound speakers. Okay, so $228. Again, you know what I mean? If you want it to match your Bugera stuff, that's fine. But for me, you're not going to beat those Harley Benton cabinets. And again, I don't have no affiliate links to Harley Benton or any of that stuff. You know what I mean? I just like the cabinet. It's right there. I have a video coming out next week with Glenn Fricker where we actually went through every single Harley Benton cabinet, the 412, 212, the 112, the vertical, then we compared them. It's a 3-minute video, so you can hear the comparison. So I would hold out and wait for that video. Maybe look at that. For the price, I don't think that the Bugera cabinet seems much better constructed or built than the Harley Benton, and the Harley Benton has the better speakers. That's just my 2 cents. And, you know, but let me know. I'm always curious to see what you guys end up doing. Curtis P says, is it worth the risk of buying a used electric guitar online sight unseen? It's, you know, risk. Here's the interesting thing about buying guitars used online. A lot of times it's easy if it's something you're very familiar with. Like if you're, you know, if you play 20 Strats and you've owned, you know, 5 or 6 of them still, and you've, you know, owned tons, you can kind of figure out, you know, what is the right thing for you based on, you know, what you know. Otherwise, you're taking a huge risk in the idea that you don't know what you're going to get. So yeah, but we live in a world where that's where we buy is online. So you have to do. The only thing I can tell you when you buy online used is buy from a reputable person or a reputable source somewhere that if you won't get hosed, because you're not going to be able to know what it is until you get it. So just do your best. Do your best to educate yourself. Do as much research as you can. So I will tell you this: buying used guitars online, I would say if I was to really look at it, because I've had some really bad experiences, boy, you know what I mean? I mean, everybody falls into different categories. I fall into the category every time of when I buy a guitar that's crappy off a used guitar, especially, I get it, it's crappy. I end up always having to resell it at a huge loss because I won't lie like the other person did. You know, they'll be like, in great condition, 9 out of 10. You get it, and you're like, it's a 5 out of 10 at best. And so you're bummed out. It's not what you thought. And you end up selling it, but you being honest in the description, I end up getting hosed. So you got to be prepared to take that. But I'm going to tell you, I feel like that's 2 out of 10 times. 2 out of 10 times when I buy a used guitar online, do I get a bad situation like that? And, you know, and if it's really bad, if it's so far off description, I always contact the seller back and say, look, man, you got to take this back. This is so far wrong. But I did have a situation last Christmas. Think about this. I bought a used Ibanez. The guy said it was 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10. It was in perfect condition. I got it. This is what happened. It happened. I got it the day I got it. It was time to go. We were leaving town to go see family. I didn't look at the guitar. We were out of town for a week. Got back. And then I found out it was probably a 3 out of 10. And I just didn't feel like it was, you know, it was on me is how I felt. Everybody's going to have a different opinion about this in the comments. That's what's great about these videos. We all get to share ideas and opinions. Me personally, I didn't go back on the guy. I just, I ate it. So because I felt like I didn't want to email the guy almost 2 weeks later after I had it and say, look, I was out of town and didn't get a chance to look at it. So you just got to do what you can. You know what I mean? Try to be smart. And I also like this, if you're a collector, like I'm a collector, you win some and you lose some. You just try to make sure it's always in your favor. That's the goal. And to be honest with you, for every story like that, you know, so you don't cry a river. For every story where I've gotten hosed on a guitar, I've also bought, you know, a $2,000 guitar for $600. I mean, you know, there's those stories too. You get, you know, you win and you lose. So that's just how it goes. You do yourself to be educated and keep going. Grumpy Mike says being honest can be a drag, but being dishonest is not an option. I agree. You know what I mean? I hate taking the beating when I'm honest on selling stuff, but you know, I do it, because I'd like to say, because I'm an honest person. I think that's probably the obvious answer, but one of my motivation to be honest when I'm selling stuff is always the feeling that I would never want anyone to feel like how I feel when I get duped like that, man. It just feels just crushing. Okay. Hold on a second. Sorry, jumped around. Okay, so I'm trying to remember if I answered. I'm trying to find a non super chat question so we can keep both lines of questions coming. Okay. All right, hold on, guys. I'm getting there. All right, here's one. It's from Curtis. Nope, that was one we just did. It says, it's from, I'm going to say the practice guy. We're going to say that. What pot setup would you recommend on a tele with HSS setup and a 5-way switch? So if it's humbucker singles, to me, the rule, there's all kinds of ways to think about this, but me personally, in a situation where in this case, 2 of the 3 pickups are going to be single coils, that's one of my determining factors for me, and the guitar is generally going to be bright anyways, I would go ahead and do 250K potentiometers. That's what I would pick for that guitar. If it was humbucker single, I might go 500K because the dominance in the pickups will be humbuckers, so go ahead and go 500K. But always, though, you know, there's all kinds of rules I can follow. But for me, HSS in a Fender style type instrument, I would generally go with 250K. So now keep in mind, there's all kinds of options out there. You can do split pots where you can have 250K for the singles and 500K for the humbucker. But me personally, I'm just going to tell you how I would wire that. For me, not for, you know, a customer, you know, if they ask for it, I would do whatever they ask. But for me, I would do 250K potentiometers. So that's how I would do that. Grubby Mike do a super chat for no reason. Thank you, Grubby Mike. And so you know, 1, 2, 3, Jim Thomas did one too as well. Thank you. Let's do a non super chat question. If I can find one. Excuse me. I don't want to mute anymore when I cough because last week I forgot to unmute apparently. Man, you guys are all over the place. Vic says it's hot in Phoenix today. Yes, it was. I think it was 116? It was hot. My truck said 116 today, but I don't know if that was true. So there you go. Okay. Okay. So Hollywood actress says, what was your favorite guitar you played at Thomann, and what model was that solid state Hughes and Kittner? Easy. The solid state Hughes and Kittner was the Spirit 200, and really, really, really like that amp. And this definitely been, like I said, it grew on me really fast. And my favorite guitar at Thomann was this Ibanez AZ red guitar that I'm pointing right now. If you're listening to the podcast, I'm pointing at a red guitar right now. By far, it really, really spoke to me. In fact, I can tell you right now, if you can't tell what's going on, you know, I've been a Strat guy forever. I'm huge into Strats, but I mean, I just was doing it today with a friend. Literally, this Ibanez AZ right here, I'm pointing at, and right next to this PRS Silver Sky are my 2 favorite Strat style guitars by far. They're everything I want my Strats to be. So I'm like, it feels weird. It does. It's a weird feeling. It's like, you know what I mean? It feels weird to like a guitar that's like a Strat, but not a Strat, more than the Strat. So, but it is. But that was my favorite guitar. I was just bonded to it immediately. So Sean says, get it down and show it to us. You know what, Sean, I have a special video about this guitar. It's a very special video for me. So Monday or Tuesday, it's already done. I sent it to patrons and they gave me some notes on it and I already edited it. The Silver Sky review comes out Monday or Tuesday. It just depends on viewership. So if the views are doing good on the current videos, I put out more videos. If they slow down, I tend not to put out, too many videos so they don't cannibalize each other. That will be out. Then this AZ will be out later in the week. And it's really, like I said, it's a really different video. I've never done a video like I've done with this one on the review. So I don't want to take any thunder from that because I'm very excited about that. William Spruce says, Phil, total refinish on my Made in Mexico Strat, doing in total Seymour Duncan hot rails and the blender pot wiring. Any thoughts? Love your channel. Thanks. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. So you're doing the hot rails, which is a pickup. Hot rails is, I had a love-hate relationship with that pickup. Hold on a second. See, I said I wouldn't mute, but I had to mute. Okay. So I love-hate relationship with that pickup. At first I used to love them and then I kind of got sick of them and now I love them again. It's weird how hot rail pickups kind of come in and out of your life like that. I think it's always because they don't feel very vintagey. They don't look the part. I think it's an aesthetics thing. I think that's when I loved them. When I liked hot rails, it was because they looked cool. And then all of a sudden they didn't look that cool. They look very dated, like very 80s. And then now I like them again. So definitely like the pickups. The blender pot is very cool. I have a blender pot on my G&Ls. And I think I have one of my Strats has a blender pot. I can't remember anymore. I think it's in my Mexican Strat. But anyways, love that potentiometer. Love that function. So I think it's cool. What I really think is cool is it's, to me, what you're doing is at the heart of it, the thing I love the most. You take a guitar that's good. That's a good, a Made in Mexico Stratocaster Teller is a good bones guitar. In other words, it's got a great neck, great body, great vibe. And then upgrade it with some electronics and a couple other things. And then you have a guitar that feels as good, if not better, than anything else on the market. And that's what I love about those guitars. I really feel like that's where a lot of players always make a lot of sense. If you take a Made in Mexico Fender guitar or a really nice mid to high end Epiphone guitar and put a little bit of love and money into it, I think you're always sitting with a guitar that's as quality as anything above it. And I love it when people get really upset and they put in the comments like, you're wrong, Phil. The American Gibson, the American Fender is so much better. Better, maybe. I don't know. You know what I mean? The truth is, I know this. If you gave me a Mexican Strat with some Seymours or some DiMargios in it and some locking keys, I could play the guitar for the rest of my life and I would never want for anything. And if that's all I was about was playing music, well, then that's what I would have. But I hate to say it, there's one side of me that loves to play music and there's a side of me that likes to collect this stuff and check it out and see it. And, you know what I mean? And share it with friends. You know what I mean? These guitars sometimes become like a whole weekend discussion with my friends for me. Something to do. It's like people talking about sports all weekend. I just talk about guitars. Let's go back to the main page, grab a non-pen question. What else do we got? Who else? Oh, wait, we're jumping around. Oh my goodness. Daniel Psychic said France hit a record today at 114.6 Fahrenheit. Wow. Dude, that's brutal because if I recall, because I've been to France, if I recall, like most of France, no air conditioning, right? Oh my goodness. I think we would, when I tell people it's 115 here, they're like, how do you live? I'm like, I live inside. Like, I don't know. If I was paving roads, I would have a different opinion about this. You know what I mean? I have friends that like literally work in the sun all day here. And dude, you take it seriously. It's as serious as going out into a winter blizzard when you work in the sun. So I don't know, but man, that's crazy. I don't know what I would do right now if I didn't have AC keeping the. I have AC. I have the fan going above my head right now. So yeah, that's crazy. All right. Okay. Next question we have is from Harmonicaster. Says, going to Summer NAMM? He means me. I am going to Summer NAMM. However, if you want, I'll talk about that in 1 second. If so, stop by the I'm messing this up, dude. Harmonicaster booth. And I apologize, Harmonicaster, if I'm messing up your name. You know, I still can't say Aggifish, and I feel bad every time I talk to Patrick about it, because I say his name wrong, or at least I think I'm saying it wrong. I might be getting it right now. Anyways, it says, booth, check out the electric harmonica. Cool tone, plays loud. I will. So I am going to Summer NAMM. I think I've talked to you guys about this before, but I'm really important to mention, I'm actually not going to Summer NAMM. I'm going to be in Nashville during the time Summer NAMM is going. So I'm going to stop in there real quick and check things out. I plan to be in the Summer NAMM all of maybe 3 or 4 hours, the entire event. I'm actually there for something else business related. And it just what happens, obviously, there's some companies that are there in town. That's why we're all meeting there. We're doing some stuff, working on some projects. Has nothing to do with YouTube. So that's what's going on there. And then I'm going to be checking out stuff. And if I'm lucky, I'm going to try and hit a couple music stores. Although, to be honest with you, I feel like lately, that's probably the last place I should probably go into is a music store. Because, you know, if I didn't sell I just sold a gold top Les Paul. If I didn't sell that, I wouldn't have got the AZ, but I did. So I pulled the trigger. But anyways, you know, it's part of a Gear Junkies. It's like hey, I'm done collecting guitars for now. It's the stupidest thing we could say out loud. It's almost a guarantee that you're going to buy another one. Anthony Cerso says, hey, Phil, tech question. Do strings have a shelf life once they are out of the package and on a guitar that doesn't get much playing time? Yes, they do. Metal oxidizes once it's in contact with oxygen. That's why a lot of companies seal the packages. And that's why some of the sealed packages are bogus. So you know. If you look at companies like Addario that take it really seriously, they don't just put their packages in or put their strings in a sealed package. They vacuum out the oxygen, as much oxygen as they can, because they know, just like when you put food in a container and seal it, you want to get all the air out of there. The air is going to be the problem. Now, moisture, of course, is another problem. So if you have a high moisture content where you live, that's even worse for the metal. But the metals, obviously, when they come in contact with oxygen, they are corroding. And so excuse me. So the point is, yes, strings do have a shelf life, especially if they are exposed to, being outside of the packaging. So yes, in fact, that's why sometimes I don't think we need to go extreme and put born on dates on strings or have expiration dates. I think that's a little silly, but I have had personal experience. Maybe you guys have too. As a bass player, more so as a guitar player, I bought some strings from a music store that probably sat on them for 3 years, and I put them on my bass and they were dead out of the package. And just because it was a small music store, they charged me like full boat retail for the strings. It was one of the worst experiences for strings. I think I paid like $38 for a pack of like $16 strings that pretty much went dead in 5 seconds. Excuse me. So, yes. So that's your answer to your question. So that's why when you buy packs of multiple box sets of packs of strings, you may not want to get 2 years supply of strings, unless of course they're sealed. That helps. But again, strings are a great topic for everybody. Somebody might have the opposite opinion of me, and I'd like to hear that too. But those are my experiences working with strings all the time. Okay, Okay, Michael. Great, Michael. Thank you for saying this. He says, the coated ones seem dead to me. They do. I think coated ones seem a little deader tone-wise than normal uncoated strings. But here's an interesting thing, and Michael, I'm glad you brought this up. I actually use coated strings on all the instruments I do not play very often. So if you're asking me string choices, I use different brands of strings, but I am a Addario guy. I am. I've been using Addario. It's the brand that worked for me. I was a GHS person. I was an Ernie Ball person. And then maybe about 15 years ago, I switched to Addario, and just for some reason, that's what worked for me, just how it works. However, what I've learned is some of my acoustic guitars, sometimes when I restring a guitar that I know it's just not going to get played a lot because it's a little different, I will put coated strings on them, because what I've learned is exactly what I said. Even though oxygen kind of corrodes a string, the coated strings last longer because they're sealed. So there you go. So I use coated strings on the guitars I don't play very often. That's just a weird way of doing it. And then Ellen wants to know, what do you think of ball pyramid strings versus super slinkies? I don't know if I've tried the pyramid strings. I got cobalts. I just put a set of cobalts on my Music Man the other day just to give them a try. You know what I mean? Cobalts are a string I tried at first. I didn't like, and then I tried them again. I liked them. I've said this before. You don't pick your strings. Your guitar does. I think that's a best way to think of this. You know, when people go, what do you play, 9s or 10s? And I go, well, it depends on the guitar. What do you play? NYXLs, you know, steel strings, or nickels, or pure nickels? Depends on the guitar. You know, you should buy the strings that best complement your guitar. That if your guitar is a little bright, find a string that's a little warm. If your guitar has a longer scale, find a string that fits that scale. You know what I mean? Strats. I have Strats that, you know, I have a Strat that has 11s on it, and I have a Strat that has 10s. But when I play them, I think most people couldn't detect that. For some reason, the 11s feel like 10s on that one Strat. And if I put 10s on it, they feel like 9s. So you have to mess around with that stuff. So strings are definitely something you have to mess around with. Overview Effect says, I feel like Ernie ball strings rust so quickly. Is it just me? You know what it is? I think most strings are going to be generally the same. You know, everybody says they're all the same. I think they're generally close to the same. However, Ernie ball for me, which are good strings, tend to, for some reason, sound dead to me quicker. And it could be psychological. You know, you can't help that. I just told you that if you take the oxygen out of this packaging, that the strings last longer. When I buy Ernie balls, the package is always like full of air. So I always, maybe psychology, you know, is in effect. And I think that because there's air in there, they're corroding, and then when I put them on guitar, they die quicker. Or maybe I'm right and they do die quicker. But Ernie balls, to me, when I put them on the guitar, they always sound fine. And then 2 days later, I feel like they're a little dead. But I have seen many players say the opposite, that they put Addarios on there and then they sound dead. So you find the best strings that fit for you. But then again, like I said, also keep in mind your guitar picks the strings. So, okay. And then Madtown Brian says, I have a bass that has original strings and a set of Addario tape wounds waiting to jump on it, except I don't play bass much. Well, yeah, I understand that too. Jose wants to know where Ralph is. He's at work today. That's why I was thinking about doing it tomorrow and having Ralph on. But the last minute I changed my mind and said I'll do it on time today, because I also don't know if I want to do a live show right before I'm supposed to be getting on a plane. So like I said, it's a long flight to Germany. Okay. That being said, let's drop over to the other side, grab a couple of these quick questions. And it says, Anthony. Nope. Next one is Matt. Matt Wells says, hey, Phil, your own comfort level aside, at what price point do you think we start paying for aesthetics and no longer pay for better quality? Well, I think, you know what it is? That's a great question, Anthony. I love that question, actually, because it's a perfect question. You know, when do you buy quality, and when are you starting buying all the BS? I think it depends on the brand. There is brand value. You have to understand that. So keep in mind that automatically a brand brings, for the lack of saying it, BS. So what I mean by that is, of course, a no-name brand is going to give you, in a lot of times, not every time, a more quality than a higher-end brand, because they can, right? Not because they can, because they need to, because that's how they make the sale. So the question that you're asking is, what's the great price point? It depends on the brand. So a no-name brand, I would expect that you would get, if they're trying to win the market, they're going to have a lot of quality right away and try to do a lot at really quickly, so that you pick it up and go, wow, this is look what I'm getting for the price. When I think of brands doing that, I always think of when Schecter, when they were started making the Korea guitars, when they first came out in the early 2000s, those guitars were wow guitars. Everybody, I think, can relate to going into a Guitar Center in the early 2000s and picking up a Schecter guitar for the first time, these set neck through guitars with ornate inlays and Seymour Duncan pickups for $350. We were like, you'd never seen that before. Now those same guitars are $1,000 almost. And you could say that's inflation, because it is, but it's also because Schecter has a brand that can now pull the pricing. That's part of it. That's the goal. A company will probably work the same way a person does. If you take a job today, you take the job that they're willing to pay you to do. After you've been there 10 years, you expect enough raises to say, look, I'm valued. I've proven over the last 10 years what I do here. Give me a raise. And, right, if you want me to stay. The company would use that same logic. It makes total sense. look, I'll give you everything in the world. Just give me a job, right? Buy my guitar. And then after 10 years of selling guitars and proving to the market that they make great stuff, they go, okay, now you know what I make. Give me some money. I think that makes sense. So to answer your question, that's what you have to look at. Is that, the brand is going to dictate that, when that quality and then you're just buying. But keep in mind, a lot of brands will want you to pay for exclusivity. So the less they make, regardless of the cost, they're going to charge you more because less people can buy it. Okay, what else do you got? This one is from Landlocked Gaming. Says, Phil, what do you think of Trump's import taxes will do for American guitar companies? Well, I normally say no politics, but I understand this is kind of guitar related. Here's what I will tell you. Obviously, the first thing is what I noticed is the Chinese kind of deflated their currency to kind of make the import, tariffs and stuff not work, right? So I'm thinking, because I'm trying to think, let's see. Phil, what do you think Trump's import taxes will do for the American guitar companies? I don't know. It's a hard question, and I'm not versed enough to really kind of get into it and know. I'm just going to give you a general, then this is what I'm telling you. I'm going to tell you the answer. I just got to tell you that it's not very educated because I'm not into politics. I don't even know what's going on most of the time with that stuff. But in the guitar industry, what I can tell you is, let's look at it this way. Let's not look at it at a cost aspect. Look at what it could do to changing the way you do things. Companies that may have looked at other things as being expensive, others, they can get a cheaper alternative in China versus Japan. If they raise, obviously the duties raise the price, I think the object is they'll get better quality components in there. Raising prices is definitely part of that, but I think it's about, trying to stop this whole, cheap labor and cheap, cheap and OSHA and all that stuff, trying to get better prices going. So I don't know, man. I don't know if it's going to do anything to help or hurt. We'll have to see. I just don't know the answer. But if you guys are versed in this, don't spout off on the comments if you're just like me and you don't know what you're talking about. Let's use this as a good forum to say, hey, look, some of you guys I know are economic majors out there. Some of you guys are really into this. If you have something to say and you think it's going to help the discussion move forward, put it in the comments down below. It'll be interesting to see what you guys think. And maybe I'll get versed on it myself. I haven't been paying attention. I do know this, obviously, just coming back from Europe, the European companies really feel like they're at a disadvantage over China. And they really feel like that, China's really killing the market by making stuff really, really dirt cheap. And I think the consumer looks at that as like a win. Hey, I get stuff cheaper, but it's only cheaper if it is cheaper, if it costs you money in the long run. And that's what I'm afraid of with like a lot of Chinese stuff. It's going to cost us money in the long run. So there you go. Yeah, see, I agree. Somebody was saying it's a waste of conversation. Okay. Let's do, hold on. And Shawnee is a Cubs fan, says, hey, Phil, just got a Marshall Silver Jubilee mini head last month with a 1936 212 cabinet. Hey, I know that amp. I have it right there. You can't see it, but it's right there. You can see the edge of it. It says, would putting a GE7 in the loop is a good boost to get heavy metal sounds for that amp? I tried that. I put an EQ in the effects loop. I was curious what happened. Yeah, it does. It makes it really kind of sizzle out. You get more of a metal zone vibe when you go that route. I didn't think it sounded that great, but it was really fun to play. It definitely made the amp sound really 80s metal, ferocious metal instead of the 80s rock metal. It was fun. So if you have a G7, do it. I don't know if I would buy a G7 to do just to try it. Obviously I didn't do it once I did it that night. It was great though. It was really cool for playing quiet at night. I used the G7 for that. I turned the amp up and then I ran the volume on the G7 low in the effects loop. So it really made the amp really kind of sound full and huge and lots of distortion, really quiet. But again, it wasn't the best tone, but it was cool. Derek Cloud says, thoughts on the Boss Katana versus the Boss Next Tone? I like the Katana more than Next Tone. I don't know. Maybe now, remember, keep in mind, I only tried the Next Tone in a guitar store, but the Next Tone to me sounded and felt like it was a repackaged blues the Blues Cube. It really had a vibe. Like to me, the Katana really seemed like it was a product they developed. The next tone really feels like a repackaged Roland amp. And that's good because I like the Roland Cubes. But I just kind of felt like that was a repackaging thing. I could be totally wrong. I would love it if, to try them. But, unfortunately, I'm not going to buy a Boss Next Tone just to A/B it against a Katana. But that being said, that's my thoughts. I like the Katana better, especially for the price factor in. So, but if anyone has a Next Tone, you can tell me why it's so great. I literally do like the amp, though. Like I said, because I like the Blues Cubes. Andrew Good just did a super chat for no reason. Oh, and then he did a question. He says, hey, Phil, is it possible to make a regular amp FRFR, like to run an amp simulations through without being colored too much by the amp EQ? Man, I don't understand the question. Okay, so is it possible to make an amp FRFR like, I don't know what that means, to run amp simulations through without being colored too much by the amp EQ? So FRFR, is that like I don't know what that is. I'm not versed. It's probably some kind of IR or direct recording thing that I'm not too savvy with. So, okay. So thank you, Dream Machine says FRFR is flat response speakers, right? So, okay, I got what you're saying. So like my studio monitors. Okay. So remember, I'm not a studio guy. So I'm learning, but I'm not one. So it says, is it possible to run an amp through flat response speakers, like to run simulations through without being colored by much of the amp EQ? Yeah, I mean, you can. Obviously, I've run the my amp into like my rock crusher, and then a line out into flat response speakers, and then used effects in post to do it that way and stuff. But I'm not the right guy to ask, unfortunately. That's something that what's great is, if you guys notice, when you ask me questions like that, I try to find the people. I definitely can get somebody like Warren Huart or Glenn Fricker or somebody, maybe ask them the question and get an answer, because those guys are definitely, when it comes to recording, I mean, I have to learn recording because now I make YouTube videos. But boy, when I start making YouTube videos, I mean, I just didn't know anything about recording. Okay, then. Okay, Bruce Collins says, hey, I just got a 69 Telecaster Thin Line. My dad bought it in 1969. Wow. Can I polish frets with 3M paper without hurting the value? They have green buildup. You can. I'm not sure. The 3M paper you can use that. I don't use that. So if you feel comfortable using that, tape off the fretboard. Just tape off the fretboard. Just take some painter's tape and tape everything off that's not the frets, and you'll be fine. I like steel wool, but again, some people don't like that. You can use polish. You can use the polish pads that Addario make. You can use Gorgamite. You can use all that stuff. If you feel comfortable, you're not going to hurt the frets. Just use, right? You can use micro mesh. Just make sure you use polished paper. So the answer to the question is yes, you can do that without hurting anything. It won't hurt the value. Polishing the frets on a guitar is not going to hurt the value. In fact, might help it, because keeping your frets polished help them not have corrosive. When they get divots in them, that the corrosion gets in there, and that makes those divots worse from the strings. So I like to polish frets. Every time I restring a guitar, I polish the frets. I do not file the frets. I am not sanding the frets. I polish the frets. Keep your frets polished. They will last longer. It's not even a guitar thing. It's just something you should know about metal. If you keep metal polished, it will resist rust, corrosion, all of that stuff. It does better. Polish your frets. Nathan Saunier, does your opinion of a company affect how you review an instrument? Interesting. All this going on with Gibson doesn't make me want anyone less. They sound great. No, and that's what's funny though. Now, I could say early on when I started making videos, it did. It was something that I personally had to come to grips with really quickly, because if you look at me now doing videos, the guitars that you see me playing the majority of the time, the amps you see me talking about, which is Fenders, Friedmans, PRS amps, what else? I don't know, Lawrence Petros pedals, whatever it is you see me reviewing, that's the stuff I actually start out reviewing. I mean, it's the irony of it is, right? I start out reviewing stuff on my channel the same way most people do. This is the gear I own, so I started reviewing it. the gear I own is because I liked it, and I tend to continue to like it. Now, I've tried tons of stuff. Now, what I will tell you is this is where I've noticed. And I know I'm right, because there are a ton of companies I just don't like. I don't like them at all. And I have nothing good to say about them, but you don't know who that is, because I don't care if I don't like them. If I like their product, that's fine. I don't need to like them. I made this comment the other day about Gibson. I don't know, we were sick of talking about Gibson, but this is interesting to note. Most people probably couldn't tell you who the president of Fender is. Not even his first name or last name. Most people. Because you don't care. I'm wearing a Fender shirt right now. You know, I'm wearing this Fender shirt. I bought this shirt at Guitar Center because I like the way it looks. It's black and it's got a white logo, which is why my shirts have black with a white logo. I like black shirts with white logos. I like the Fender logo, so I bought it. I can't tell you that I actually like Fender, the company or the people. I mean, their shirts seem fine. The employees I've met are great, but I don't know the executive team at Fender, so I don't know them. So I can't say I review Fender because I like the company. I review Fender because I like the products and I like the logo, right? There makes perfect sense. Same thing. So that's how it works. What I will tell you, though, that's important is the opposite is true when I like a company. So in other words, if I don't like a company, you tend to never know. Okay. Even if you think you know, you don't. Because sometimes companies, like, think a perfect example. Sometimes I love gear and that company doesn't understand the internet. Or when I say understand, I should say don't value it. They don't value a guy that talks about gear and a bunch of people watch him talk about gear. And that's fine. I understand that they don't understand it. And it doesn't change my perspective of their product. However, sometimes if a company is really nice, you can tend to love the product backwards. I did a video. Think about this. I did a video in my channel in the first year where I explained that I'm a PRS fan because of the fact that I like the company, not because I liked the product at first. The product I grew to love, but it was the actual employees at PRS that I met and I enjoyed so much. And their passion made me look at the gear. What's great about that video is it's at least a year before I received one penny from YouTube or anyone had ever sent me a free cable. Like I was just speaking honestly. Hey, look. So, yeah. So the answer to your question is, yeah, if you like a company, you tend to like their stuff. If you dislike a company, I tend to like their stuff, just not deal with them as much. So Gibson's a perfect example. I reviewed it. Now I have on my channel, I have at least 3 dozen videos about Gibson product, but I've never worked with Gibson once. Not even for a second. I've never worked with Gibson in any degree whatsoever. Nothing. So, I like their product. I don't have to like them. Derek Cloud, ever ran a tube overdrive pedal into a solid state amp? Yeah. I ran the, I ran the Seymour Duncan tube pedal into a solid state amp. What I will find is it will never produce the same thing a solid state pedal into a tube amp will. So a solid state pedal, you put that into a tube amp and the tube amp warms up the pedal. You put a tube pedal in a solid state amp, it warms up the amp, but not nearly as much as the other way around. So it's cool. It's good. But if you give me a choice, I'd rather run a solid state pedal into a tube amp versus a tube amp into a solid state pedal. But, so Madtown Brian says, hey, your honesty and integrity, overall awesomeness. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. It's not about that for me. It's about this. The reason we do these weekly QA and hangouts is just find out what you guys think and talk about this stuff and I try to hone my content towards the community, what they're asking for and what they're looking for. Because my favorite thing, so what I enjoy the most is when we bump into each other in public, because it happens a lot. I'm always bumping into, come on, man. I'm always in a guitar store or a guitar event. I'm always checking out guitar stuff. When we bump into each other, I really feel connected because I feel like the conversations we have are congruent. They're consistent, right? We walk the talk, so what I say here on the channel is what I say in public. The only thing is different. I've said this, maybe never here, but I've said it all the time to patrons. They figured it out real fast. The only thing that's different about me in person than it is on the channel is I curse in person. Not usually within the first seconds of meeting me, but I do curse a lot. I just won't curse on YouTube. It has nothing to do with monetization, has nothing to do with YouTube, has nothing to do with my kids. They're old enough to hear curse words now. It has to do with the fact that I don't like listening to myself curse. In fact, I don't know why you would ever want to know, but there's one video. That's all it took for me, so you know. And of all my videos right now, there is a video out there early on, and I did curse. I said some curse words in the video. Not bad ones, you know, the major ones. And when I was listening back, I didn't like it. I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird thing to say. So Brian says, Phil just dropping F-bombs left and right. Yeah, you know, you've heard me. You see, I do it. But yeah, that's all. Let's see. What else? Hold on. I just want to make sure we're doing good on time. I know I forgot to do the code for the merch store. I just didn't know if we were wearing that out. I will do the 50% off code when I index the video. I'll put it back if you guys are interested, especially if you're interested in the new shirt, the Black Ops shirt, which is where it's a dark gray logo, so it's not less, popping. A lot of you guys bought that shirt. Again, I try not to always talk about merch stuff. You know, I know. Sometimes you got to help pay the bills. So you got to talk about that stuff. But, like I said, however you guys choose to help the channel, I appreciate it. Whether you just watch, thumbs up, put a comment, buy a shirt, be a patron, give me a high five in public, whatever it is, man. I appreciate all of it. Zach A says, can you adjust the height of an acoustics action beyond relief adjustment? Yeah, of course. You can raise and lower the bridge, usually done by sanding the bridge, or putting in a new bridge is ideal, but some people use shims. So shims are usually strips of plastic and you put in the bridge. There's arguments about whether or not the shims kill sustain or change things. I can tell you this: if you use a shim, just like when you sand a bridge, you need to make sure it's perfectly flat and done right. Otherwise, if you have a transducer pickup, you can have issues where you don't hear strings as much as others because there's little micro like pockets in the bridge. But yeah, you absolutely do that. I wish, I wish all companies, I wish all acoustic companies that sent out guitars would send in multiple bridge pieces. I think they're cheap. What kind of piece of plastic costs? I don't understand when you open up an acoustic why there's not 2 or 3 extra bridges in there to help you for the next 5 years. I personally would like to have the option of, maybe having low action on the bridge, send it down, put it there. But when I go to record, I like to have the higher action because it doesn't rattle as much. Something I have to deal with making videos is when sometimes I have to argue with myself when I make a video. Do I do the video for the review with the guitar set to the action I like, which is a little low, and the guitar buzzes a little bit more? Or do I raise the action because it's going to sound better in the video? It sounds like a silly thing to argue about, but I can literally spend an hour or two going back and forth in a video deciding whether or not what I want to do, right? Because I'm trying to decide, should I review it the way I have it, or should I review it the way it best presents the product? That being said, with acoustic, same thing. When you record acoustic, you generally will raise the action a little bit. So it would be nice to have multiple pieces of the bridge. But you can always get aftermarket bridge pieces. Bud says, because they want you to buy 2 guitars instead. Well, that's smart, except for you can always get Graphtech. So you don't have to buy a guitar. But yeah. So okay, Lucky Lick says, what's your take on Schlesinger V30s? They sound good on low volumes. The old British speakers are warm. The new Chinese are pretty harsh. I think there are 3 different versions of the quality. You could be right. This could be true. I will tell you, though, that I have all 3. So currently in my cabinets through my amplifiers, I'm a V30 guy, so I mostly have V30s. I do have the Mesa Boogie V30, which you can buy from Mesa Boogie directly. Just go to their website, go to shop. It's like $140. It's like $10 more than the average, and it is made in England. I've been told they've been voiced a little differently for Mesa Boogie. That could just be something people says. But what I will tell you is you can get a British-made V30 through Mesa Boogie. There are Chinese ones which come in like the Harley Benton cabinet and other cabinets. I have those, and I have old stock ones. Literally, when I say old stock, I bought them like a long time ago before China was even a factor in V30s. I will tell you this. The difference between my old V30s and new ones is pretty dramatic, and the new ones being bright, like you talked about, and the other ones being warm. However, when I run the V30s for a while, the new ones, and I did a video on this on how to break in a speaker, I find that they even out. Yes, A being the speakers can you tell a difference? Sometimes, but I feel like, you know, everything is, if you have to A/B it, then it really can't matter that much. To me, it's like if I can plug into a V30 speaker and it sounds fine, I don't go, oh, it's horrible, what's going on here? That's different. But to go, it sounds good, and then A/B it and go, that sounds better. You know, is that worth all that? I don't know. I mean, so to answer your question, I think old V30s sound a little broken in and sound better. Some people don't believe breaking in speakers does anything. I am not from that camp. I'm definitely from the more speaker breaks in. I was talking to Pete Thorne on the bus a week ago, and he gave a theory that was great. His theory was that a lot of the V30s could sound different because just like we know for a fact that manufacturers have to change out capacitors and things and transistors over the years because they can't get access to parts anymore. So in other words, like maybe a transistor they use becomes, you know, illegal to make because of, you know, regulations, or just, you know, impossible to get because of things going on. They change them out, and that changes the way maybe pedals and amps sound. His theory was that the paper, you know, right, maybe the process to make the paper, so the cone paper could be different over the years. So because funny enough, this was a conversation, you know, if you put a bunch of gear junkies on a bus, you know, this is what we talked about. We actually had an entire 30-40 minute discussion on speakers, V30s. We all like V30s. Brian says, just poke a hole through your V30 with a speaker. No, don't. Yeah, he said, no, don't. Yeah, don't do that. So yeah, there could be all kinds of things like that. But what I will tell you is this. If you give me a brand new out of the box Chinese V30 speaker right now and you plug it into a cabinet for me, I am not going to go, oh my goodness, this sounds horrible. I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. I think it's going to be a little brighter and fizzier than probably some of my other V30s, but it's always fun. And I feel like over time they kind of equalize. So just break them in. So 800, Gary wants everybody to know there's 826 people watching, only 181 thumbs up. It's all right. So, but I mean, I don't know if you guys know, I get like $1,000 a thumb up. Just kidding. If that was true, it would make 6 videos and then I'd be done. Sometimes it's good that we don't get paid enough on YouTube or as much that, right? It's makes us make more content. It's good. It's not a horrible gig, that's for sure. Okay, what else do we got going on? Hold on, let's make sure, because we're over the hour. But if there's a couple more things we want to talk about before we go, we'll hit that. And okay. Oh yeah, you guys spiked up the likes. That's cool. Oh, you know what? Igor7575 says, but best non-Gibson single cut body style guitar. You know, this is a great conversation because yeah, now that everybody's kind of like Gibson kind of not being the best company ever right now, makes you want to look at the alternatives, doesn't it? Makes me too. The best Gibson single cut body style guitar. I don't know what the best one is. This is a question that's come up over the time, and you know, I would like to have a Tokai, so you know. I was actually looking at a couple in a store, but they were really both heavy. But I really would like one of those. But I think right now my favorite single cut guitar, period, is my PRS S2 semi hollow. I know it is because I have 2 of them, and I have with different pickups, and I love them, and I play them both. And they seem to be in the rotation heavily. In fact, it's the most out of all the single cuts I've ever owned in my life. I've played those the most. And I'm a big fan of the S2s because I like the carves, the feel, and I like the price point. That one I bought used. Well, you know, one of those like is in mint condition kind of things. I think I paid like $800, $900 for it, right? And I think it's 17 new. You know, you can find deals. It's a semi hollow. That's why I was a little more, because it's semi hollow, and it's stock. You know, everything about it's stock. I love it. It's my favorite. But that's my favorite. So it's not the best one. You asked for the best one. I don't know what the best one is, but that's my favorite. So, and let's see what else. Eastman, yeah, somebody's saying Eastman guitars. I mean, there's lots. Let's be honest. You know, actually, you know what? I'm glad when this conversation is kind of go, because then you kind of helps you kind of run through everything. When it comes to Gibson, here's the reality of Gibson, and any company, by the way, any company. If you don't want to buy from any company, you don't have to, because there is a lot of everything out there. there are so many great single cut guitars from so many companies, from LTD ESP to Schecter makes a good one. I like their Solo 6, man. That's a cool guitar. You can pick up a Korean-made Solo 6 with a flame maple. It's a veneer, but it looks cool with some EMGs or Duncans in it. You picked up $300. That guitar will play great as long as it hasn't been mistreated. There's Eastmans on the, which are, you know, import, but they're high-end constructed and handmade. They're great. There are so many great guitars out there if you don't want to buy a Gibson. This is true with any brand. If you don't like Fender, you don't have to buy Fender. There's so many great guitars in every price point, whether you want to do Harley Benton inexpensive or you want to do Sir high-end guitars. That's the great thing about this. That's why, so you know, this ties back into another thing too. Sometimes when I do videos and like when we talk about copy guitars and people go, you know, Gibson's horrible and Fender's horrible because they're pricing gouging everybody and they're too high. And I'm like, well, then don't buy them. There's so many alternatives out there to get a better product for a lesser price. I think most of us, especially if you're younger watching this channel, you know, this is one thing I can say for the older players. A lot of us are just branded, man. We're, you know, you can't grow up. When you grow up watching your idols play something and do something, of course you lend yourself more to that. I've said this many times before. If it wasn't for Slash, I wouldn't own a Gibson. I could care less. And that's the same way about Fender too, right? But Fender, for me, it's weird. It's not like an iconic guitar player. It's Gary Hoey. If you look at my Strat, my whole humbucker Strat fascination is because of Gary Hoey. I love Gary Hoey's tone. Every time I hear a Gary Hoey album, I love his tone. And that to me is like, I love that Strat tone. And of course, John Mayer. But look what John Mayer did. Bang, he made a Strat with PRS. There you go. Proves the point. As soon as he didn't like Fender anymore, he could go somewhere else. So, yeah, and Phil Mosley Music said, hey, he's agreeing with me, and then he says, there's so much out there. I agree. There's so much stuff, man. It's great. It's a great time to be into guitar, right? I was just showing Harley Bentons to my buddy today. There were so many good Harley Bentons. You know, you guys have been talking about these guitars. Again, of course, they're great. But and I stick with what I said originally with Harley Benton. There's a lot of alternatives to Harley Benton that are really good too as well. Okay, so Pedro wants to know thoughts on the Chapman Ghost Fret V2. Got one on the way. Check it out. I don't know. The only Chapman Ghost Fret I've played is the one I reviewed when I did the Sharp of my axe, which was the lower priced one. So that's the only information I have on that. I will tell you this, when it comes to the only two Chapmans, so Chapman guitars are cool. I played a bunch, but I will tell you this, if I was ever to buy a Chapman guitar, without a doubt, the two guitars that I really love from Chapman is that hollow body tele style guitar with the semi-hollow with the P90s. Absolutely, definitely love that guitar. I would put that would probably be first on my list. Second is the Revere model, the baritone. Those two guitars, when I played them, every time I think about those guitars, I think, man, if I was in the mood to buy a guitar and I was going to get a Chapman, those are the guitars I'm going for. Those are the ones I liked. I don't know why. I just really like them, especially the P90 tele, because it was cool. It was different. And then, so, you know, I think I told you guys when I talked about this last time, even Rob Chapman said to me, because I know a guy can give you a good price. And trust me, that was a really big temptation to get that guitar. But, you know, I don't know. Like I said, to get a guitar, something's got to go. Everything circles out for me at this point. There's just no way I'm adding more to the collection. It's just, I can't. So it's a good way to do it once you get your collection to a size. You definitely need to adopt at some point something that says, okay, for something to come in, something's got to go out. It makes it tougher. So Ralph Lopez says, your videos have given me the confidence to sharpen my axes. Thank you, dude. That's awesome. Thank you so much. You know, those comments always mean, I mean, all comments are great and they mean a lot to me. Those comments always mean the most because it really makes me focus on doing. Every time I hear that, I think, okay, yeah, we should do some more repair videos, more stuff like that. Because again, you know, it's just cool. You know what I mean? It's cool to hear that. I love hearing that you guys are doing stuff and you know, sharing passion. I like to share passion. I'm glad you guys are getting it too. Brian says, thinking about getting a Stu Mac pedal kit to put together for fun. Have you done one before? I haven't done a Stu Mac pedal kit. I haven't even tried one. And I can't think about it right now because unfortunately I'm finishing up the amp video. The amp video it's because like I know somebody out there keeps hitting me with the, hey, you're not done with the amp video yet. And I'm like, well, because if I was just doing a video, it'd be great, but I do multiple, you'll see, like I said, I do so many things at one time. But the amp video, I'm not trying to do a video where I build the amp. I'm trying to do multiple videos that are going to be helpful for you guys. And so there's something that's been taking a lot of time with that. It has nothing to do with the amp video itself. But no, I haven't tried the pedal kit. Although I think pedal kits are a cool idea because I think it's, one, it's not extremely dangerous to make them. Two, generally speaking, most of the pedal kits you get, when you build them, they sound pretty good and you use them, which is nice because, you want to be able to use something you built. So, so there you go. The High Advisor says your thoughts on I think he's saying Duesenberg. It says Duesenberg less trim too. I don't know if that's the thing I already reviewed. Let's take a look. Hold on. I'm going to try and visually see it before I go. How are we doing? Oh, we're good. We're good on time. Duesenberg. Yeah. Okay, buddy. I'll put a link in the description. The Duesenberg Les Paul trim, our less trim 2 is fantastic. It's amazing. I put it on my SG. I love it. I can't say enough about it. Everything about it is fantastic. I love the price point. I love the way it looks. I love how light it is. I like everything about it. Highly recommend it. Highly recommend that bridge to anyone. And I'll put a link to the video where I did with that bridge. It's great. I like it better than my Bigsby bridges. So it's great. It's a great bridge. It's cool. You can't beat it for the price and for what it is. It's great. So on that note, we'll do one more and then we'll go. Let's see. So I can start prepping for my trip. RNA Music says, you the man? No, RNA Music, you are the man, by the way. It's good talking to you, by the way. And let's see. What's the last question? What do you guys got? Oh, man, this is where it gets fun. Every time I ask for a question, it goes safe. Or goes quiet. Okay, last one is from Rick's. Rick says, hey, Phil, love the channel. Have you ever thought about doing a video on lap steels or a review of the lap steel guitar? No, I've never thought about that, but I will be in Nashville. Is that something, you know what, put in the comments down below. If that's something you'd be interested in, I'll find somebody who does lap steel that can show us. Maybe, is that something you're interested in seeing? How somebody does that? I love it when you guys give me questions like that. One of my favorite things to do on this channel for me is I love it, believe it or not, when you guys ask me questions I don't know the answers to, or I can't even guess, or I can't figure out. Those are the best questions for me because now I just feel like I got to find the answer and then share it with you guys. And it happens more than, you can imagine. It happens a lot. You can't know everything. My joke is, just because you know a thing doesn't mean you know everything. So anytime you guys ask me questions I don't know, I love to find the answer and share it. And then Bruce said, one last question, says, can you talk about the difference between a coil tap and a coil split? Those terms seem to be used interchangeably. PRS, Epiphone, each have coil tap. Yeah. This is a terminology that gets crazy because, like you said, they use the terms, but they are different things. But one of the things have kind of gone away. Generally speaking, again, everything is coil split. What I mean everything is 90% of the guitars you're going to come across, whether they say coil tap or coil split, they are coil splitting. Originally, it's believed that originally a coil split is when you take two coils and then you ground one out or defeat one. In other words, you make a humbucker a single coil. Okay. Aren't you glad I used this finger to explain the single coil? Anyways, so now you go from humbucker to single coil. Now, a coil tap was also believed where they would take in a wrap. So when they would wrap, let's say you have 9,000 wraps, they could go 4,500 wraps in or 4,000 wraps in and then tap into that so that when you flip the switch, you were literally cutting the pickup's power in half. It's generally what everybody was doing back in the day. It was kind of like lower rated power, right? I don't know if I should say lower rated power, but you get the idea. Cuts the signal in half. So that's what they were kind of referring to. But you have to accept the fact that a lot of companies have decided coil tap means coil split. So generally, if somebody says coil split and coil tap, just be prepared for the majority of the time they mean the same thing, even though technically they mean different things. I hope that helps, Bruce. I know it gets a little tricky out there, but we are an industry that loves to just throw terms around, and it's because the industry works backwards, which means as we use slang as musicians that doesn't make any sense, companies just adopt the slang. It's weird, but it is true, right? So when people say things wrong, the companies just tend to go, okay, that's the term for it now. It's weird. So there you go. On that note, I'm going to let you guys go. And I'm hoping everything goes right. I'll be doing a live show next Friday, and it'll be from Germany. However, if it's from Germany, it'll be like 8 in the morning again. So it'll be early our time, Pacific time. But I'll be doing it something. I promise something. If I don't do the live show on Friday next week, I will have something you'll know ahead of time. I'll pump something out. And that note, I just want to do a thank you to the patrons that make this happen every week. As you know, there's patrons that support the channel, but these patrons support the live show, which is important because they let me hang out with you guys every week, which is awesome, and do the podcast. And here it is. It's Jeffrey Howe, Zachary Rowe, Michael Newman, Bruce in the Saltwater Whiskey Band, Hannah Gunson, John Jacks, Michael Shy, Justin Mabe, Posse Kenyon, that I'm never going to say right, but sorry, Alizdar McLeod, Andy Dennis, Anthony Desposito, Bob Crosley, Bob Pickwode, Brian Quackenbush, Brian Stewart, Bruce Collins, Chuck Keene, Chief Squatch, Chris at the Guitar Pit. It's a channel. Check him out. Chris from New Mexico. Excuse me. Craig Parker, Dennis Prescott, Derek Miller, Aaron Kamicker, Gary Phillips, Gene Graham, Greg Peterson, James Biles, John Russell, Jonathan Pickering, Joseph McCarthy, Kermit Jackson, Larry Copeland, Lawrence Petros from Lawrence Petros Pedals, Lonnie Hoke, Michael Lidner, Muse guitarist, Paul Ostrike, Lewis and Alvaro from Pedal Pal Effects, Sam Oram, Steve Hogan, Tim Camacho, Tim Farnsworth, Todd Flowers, and Zesty Basil Pizza. I want to thank them as I thank them every week because whether you realize it or not, they are the reason there is no corporate sponsors on the live show. No companies, no corporations sponsor this, which is important to me because it's important to you guys. And it's great because, as these live shows have gotten big, especially on the podcast side, we've had companies ask us now to sponsor. And, it's nice to say, unless it makes sense, we're not doing it because you guys are sponsoring this. So thank you all those lists names. And thank you for you that hang out and hear that list, because like I said, not only do you all make this happen, they also make this happen. And you guys are awesome. And I'll see you guys next week. And until next time, know your gear.